Have you ever spent an evening with people you genuinely enjoy, only to come home feeling completely exhausted? Not emotionally upset, not lonely, not rejected, just drained. The strange thing is that many women with ADHD notice this pattern even after positive social experiences. They can spend time with close friends, attend a family gathering they were looking forward to, or enjoy a dinner conversation that felt meaningful and supportive, yet afterward they feel as though someone unplugged their entire nervous system. Many begin to wonder whether they are becoming antisocial, less resilient, or simply getting older. But what if the exhaustion has very little to do with being introverted? What if the real reason is that your brain is doing far more work during social interactions than most people realize? Today, we're going to explore why socializing can feel surprisingly draining for women with ADHD, why this often becomes more noticeable after 40, and why the problem is usually not that you're too sensitive or that you don't like people. In many cases, the issue is that your nervous system is carrying a hidden workload that nobody can see. Once you understand that workload, many experiences that seemed confusing suddenly begin to make sense. For a long time, I believed that social exhaustion was mostly an emotional issue. The common explanation is that some people are introverts and some are extroverts. Introverts supposedly lose energy around people while extroverts gain energy from being around others. While there is some truth to that idea, it doesn't fully explain what many women with ADHD experience. Plenty of ADHD women genuinely enjoy people. They enjoy meaningful conversations. They care deeply about relationships. They may even look forward to social events. Yet, despite enjoying the interaction, they still end up exhausted afterward. The reason is that socializing is not simply an emotional activity. It is also a cognitive activity, a sensory activity, and a nervous system activity. During a conversation, your brain is constantly performing dozens of tasks simultaneously. You are listening to words, interpreting tone of voice, reading facial expressions, monitoring body language, remembering information, deciding when to speak, deciding when not to speak, managing your own emotional responses, filtering distractions, and predicting what another person might mean beyond the literal words they are saying. Most of this happens automatically and beneath conscious awareness. The problem is that all of these processes require energy. For many women with ADHD, this hidden processing load is significantly higher than people realize. ADHD is often described as an attention disorder, but attention is only part of the story. ADHD affects executive functioning, which includes the brain's ability to organize information, prioritize stimuli, regulate attention, manage impulses, and switch efficiently between different streams of information. Social situations require all of these abilities at once. In a conversation, your brain is continuously deciding what deserves attention and what should be ignored. It is sorting information in real time. When executive functioning requires more effort, social interaction naturally becomes more energy-intensive. One reason this is so confusing is that ADHD women are often highly perceptive. Many notice details that others miss. They detect subtle shifts in mood, small changes in facial expression, tension in someone's voice, or emotional undercurrents in a conversation. This sensitivity can be a tremendous strength because it creates empathy, intuition, and emotional intelligence. However, noticing more information also means processing more information. The nervous system cannot process endless amounts of data without paying an energy cost. This becomes even more noticeable in environments with high levels of stimulation. Imagine meeting a friend for a quiet walk in nature. Now compare that with meeting the same friend in a crowded restaurant with bright lighting, music playing in the background, multiple conversations happening nearby, waiters moving around constantly, and dishes clattering every few seconds. The conversation may be identical, but the experience for your nervous system is completely different. In the second situation, your brain is not only engaged in social interaction, it is also filtering sensory information every second. It is deciding which sounds matter and which sounds should be ignored. It is processing movement, light, noise, and environmental unpredictability while simultaneously maintaining a conversation. Many women don't realize how much energy this filtering process consumes. They leave a busy social event believing that people exhausted them, when, in reality, a large portion of the fatigue came from sensory overload. This is one reason why some women feel surprisingly refreshed after a long conversation during a walk in nature, but completely depleted after a shorter conversation in a crowded cafe. The people are not necessarily the problem. The environment may be. For many women, this issue becomes more obvious during midlife. They often tell me that they handled social situations more easily in their 20s or 30s. They attended parties, managed busy workplaces, maintained large social circles, and seemed to have much more capacity. Then somewhere during their 40s, something changed. Suddenly, social events require recovery time. Loud restaurants feel overwhelming. Family gatherings become exhausting. What happened? Part of the answer may be that many women spent decades compensating without realizing it. Throughout childhood and adulthood, countless women with ADHD learn to mask their natural tendencies. They monitor themselves carefully. They work hard to avoid interrupting. They force themselves to stay focused during conversations. They suppress signs of overwhelm. They consciously manage how they appear to others. Over time, this becomes automatic. The problem is that masking requires energy, a great deal of energy. When we are younger, we often have larger reserves. As we move through midlife, life becomes more demanding. Careers become more complex. Families require attention. Sleep may become less reliable. Hormonal changes influence stress resilience. Responsibilities accumulate. The nervous system no longer has the same margin for inefficiency that it once did. As a result, the hidden cost of masking becomes much more visible. The social interaction itself may not have changed. Your ability to absorb the cost has. Another factor that deserves attention is emotional monitoring. Many ADHD women are exceptionally empathetic. They naturally pay attention to how others are feeling. They want people to feel comfortable. They often become the listener, the helper, the peacemaker, or the person who holds emotional space for everyone else. While this is a beautiful quality, it can create a situation where socializing becomes a one-way flow of energy. Instead of simply participating in the interaction, they are constantly managing it. They are monitoring emotional dynamics, noticing tension, supporting others, and adapting their own behavior to maintain harmony. The nervous system experiences this as work. Even when the work is meaningful and rewarding, it is still work. Imagine carrying a backpack all day. You may not notice the weight at first, but eventually, fatigue appears. Emotional monitoring functions in a similar way. The effort accumulates gradually until the nervous system finally demands recovery. This helps explain why some people leave you feeling energized while others leave you feeling depleted. It is not always because one person is positive and another is negative. Sometimes the difference is much simpler. Around certain people, your nervous system feels safe. You don't have to monitor yourself constantly. You don't have to analyze every word. You don't have to predict reactions. You don't have to perform. Your brain can relax. Around other people, your nervous system remains on alert. You may not consciously notice it, but your brain is working harder. It is scanning for uncertainty. It is interpreting mixed signals. It is trying to predict outcomes. It is deciding what version of yourself is acceptable in that environment. The social interaction may look identical from the outside, yet the energy cost is completely different. One of the most important lessons many ADHD women learn is that recovery is not the same thing as rest. Sleep is important, but sleep alone does not always restore a depleted nervous system. Recovery involves reducing the amount of incoming information. It means creating periods where the brain no longer needs to process, analyze, monitor, decide, organize, or perform. This is why activities such as spending time in nature, sitting quietly, reading, gentle movement, listening to calming music, or simply having an hour without demands can feel surprisingly restorative. Many women mistakenly feel guilty about needing this recovery time. They compare themselves to others who seem capable of endless social engagement, but different nervous systems have different energy requirements. The goal is not to force yourself into someone else's model of social life. The goal is to understand your own energy economy and build your life around it. One of the most powerful questions you can begin asking yourself is not, "Do I like these people?" but rather, "What happens to my nervous system when I'm with these people? Do you feel calmer afterward or more tense? Do you feel accepted or monitored? Do you feel like yourself or like you're performing? Do you leave with energy or without it?" These questions often reveal far more than personality labels ever could. The truth is that many women with ADHD spend years believing there is something wrong with them because they need more recovery after social interaction. In reality, their nervous system may simply be processing more information, filtering more stimulation, managing more sensory input, and carrying more invisible cognitive work than the people around them. Once you understand this, the exhaustion stops feeling mysterious. It starts feeling logical, and that understanding is incredibly freeing. Because when you stop viewing your social fatigue as a personal flaw, you can begin making choices that actually support your nervous system. You can choose environments more carefully. You can schedule recovery intentionally. You can prioritize relationships that allow authenticity instead of performance. And perhaps most importantly, you can stop apologizing for the fact that your brain works differently. The goal is not to become less social. The goal is to become more intentional, to understand what truly drains you, what genuinely restores you, and how to create a life where connection supports your well-being rather than constantly depleting it. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to Complex Brain Living. Every Wednesday and Sunday, we explore ADHD, nervous system health, longevity, and how to build a calmer life with a complex brain. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Do you think it's the people, the environment, or the mental processing itself that leaves you most exhausted after socializing?